Good morning to everyone. I'm Dr. Sumi MS. The name of the course is Object Oriented Programming, and today's lecture topic is Built-in Exception from Unit 3 Exception Handling and Multi-threading. On completion, the students will be able to list the different types of user-defined and built-in exceptions and explain the built-in exceptions and differentiate between checked and unchecked exceptions and explain them with example programs. The two main types of exceptions are user-defined and built-in, where built-in exceptions are further classified as checked and unchecked exceptions. Under checked exceptions, we have class not found exception, interrupted exception, IO exception, instantiation exception, SQL exception, file not found exception. And under unchecked exceptions, we have arithmetic exception, class cast exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bounds exception, array store exception, as well as illegal thread state exception. Built-in exceptions. The built-in exceptions are the exceptions which are available in Java libraries. These exceptions are suitable to explain certain error situations. Certain list of built-in exceptions are given below. Arithmetic exception. This is thrown when a problem in arithmetic operation is noticed by the Java virtual machine. Array index out of bounds exception. Here, when an array is accessed with an illegal index, this exception is thrown. Class not found exception. This exception is thrown when we try to access a class which is not defined. File not found exception. Here, when a non-existing file is accessed or when we try to access a non-existing file, this exception, file not found exception, is thrown. IO exception. This exception is thrown when the input-output operation has failed or interrupted. Interrupted exception. This exception is thrown when a thread is interrupted when it is processing, waiting, or sleeping. Illegal access exception. This is thrown when access to a class is denied. No such field exception. Thrown when we try to access any field or variable in a class that does not exist. No such method exception. This exception is thrown when we try to access a non-existing method. Null pointer exception. This exception is thrown when we refer the members of a null object. And null format exception. This exception is thrown when a method is unable to convert to a string into a numeric format. String index out of bounds exception. This exception is thrown when we access a string array with an illegal index. Checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are called compile time exceptions because these exceptions are checked at compile time by the user. Checked exceptions forces the programmers to deal with exception that may be thrown. The compiler ensures whether the programmer handles the exception using try-catch block. The programmer has to handle the exception, otherwise the compilation will fail and error will be thrown. Examples: class not found exception, clone not supported exception, illegal access exception, malformed URL exception, no such file exception, no such method exception, IO exception. And in this example, a file not found exception is being found. It is a checked exception in Java. Anytime we want to read a file from a system, the Java forces us to handle the error situation where the file may not be present in place. Without try-catch block, import java.io, and here an checked exception is being handled without a try-catch block. To make the program to compile and handle the error situation to be handled with try-catch block, here we shall see the program where the error situation is handled with try-catch block. So here the file which is in trouble, it is assessed, it is tried to assess in the try block, and the exception that occurs is handled in the catch block. Unchecked exceptions or runtime exceptions. The unchecked exceptions are just opposite to the checked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions are not checked at runtime, rather they are not checked at compile time, rather they are checked at runtime. The compiler doesn't force the programmers to either catch the exception or declare it in a throws class. In fact, the programmers may not even know that the exception could be thrown. So examples are array index out of bounds exception, arithmetic exception, and null pointer exception. So in this, compilation is done properly and then it throws an arithmetic exception while running. Since this arithmetic exception is an unchecked exception, compiler has been carried out properly. Quiz questions on built-in exception. Describe any 5 built-in exceptions. What do you mean by unchecked exceptions? Write a program in Java with try-catch block to handle unchecked exceptions. Thank you.